There we go. Hello there. I'm Rob Salter. Welcome to my channel. This is a place where we talk about physical and mental health, and I'm really, really happy to have Marcel James with me today. Marcel has his own YouTube channel called The Pulse, and he's going to tell us all about that very shortly. I've already made a video on my channel where I've discussed how Marcel really inspired me on my journey to taking NMN and a few other supplements as well, which we'll talk about. I've done a video, an interview on his channel, and I will put a link above to link to that video so you can watch that as well. We did that video, Marcel, I believe, in sort of December time, am I right?
It was a couple months ago, Rob.
Yeah. A couple of months ago, yeah. So I calculated today that I've been using NMN for about 5 months, and I can't remember how long you've been using it for. So let's just go into your story a little bit and up to where you are now.
Well, yeah, my story's a little more chopped up because I started taking resveratrol first. I took that for a year. Then in 2020, in around October, I started taking NMN. Then I stumbled onto a fake NMN. Took that for 7 months. Don't buy NMN from Amazon if you haven't seen my video yet. That's the quick version of my video.
Yeah.
And then last July, around the 24th or 25th, I figured it out. I took the NMN to be lab tested. I confirmed that I was actually getting real NMN. And I've been on NMN ever since. And so that's, I don't know, however long since July, 6-7 months now back on NMN.
Right. So when we did our first interview, we discussed my kind of initial responses to it. And in my video I made about you, I talked about your initial responses, particularly in your ability to, get back into tennis, for example, and train your kids in tennis. But would you like to give us an update as to how you feel you've progressed over time, particularly since we last spoke?
Sure. And I'm gonna, if people, I'll give you a more condensified version of the story, because I'm about to do another update for my channel, so with a whole detailed update, because a lot's gone on since then. I had a surgery in the fall unrelated to all of this, and then had to recover from that. And then had a couple injuries that I've told you about prior to this. But yeah, I hurt my wrist playing tennis, and then hurt my back running sprints. But I was running like the wind, and I was playing tennis with a 40-year-old who hits the hardest of anyone at our club. I mean, his balls really are hit hard, and was going toe-to-toe with him. So a lot of success has happened to me, but then a couple setbacks because, frankly, I was overdoing it. I was just, I'd get these feelings of like I'm invincible. And and I went out there and tried. I just felt like I could do anything. And it's kind of like, you get a new car engine and you put it in an old car. And you got to remember, I guess, to fix the frame and fix the brakes.
You want to just tell us your age, because I think we didn't.
I turned 57 during that time in December.
Right.
So I am 57 years young now, and yeah, I don't feel it. I'm doing things that right now I'm exercising 5 to 6 hours a day. And rotating different types of exercises, every other day, like weight training. I started doing weights. I basically had a goal going into the new year, getting over that surgery. I had a hernia repaired. So again, it was something that was prior to all the supplements, and I'd put it off due to COVID for a couple of years. And it was just finally to the point where I needed to get that repaired, to get it behind me during my tennis off season, if you will. And so I'm going into my 3rd year playing tennis, and I'm doing a lot of training and really overtraining to sort of see how far I can push things, because I never get tired. Like, I never get winded. I never get exhausted. It's just the most incredible thing. And I've also made a bunch of dietary changes in addition to the supplements, because I was doing so well on the supplements that it made me want more. I really wanted to maximize things, and quit sugar, started intermittent fasting, and I've even gotten better at it over time. I look for little things I can do. I'm mostly eating fish now. I've given up red meat. Again, not because I have anything against red meat. I like it. Just when the less I would eat of it, then I would have it, I would feel it right away. I would feel bogged down by it. Whereas, chicken or I should qualify that I still have weaknesses. I'll still have pizza with salami or whatever, but I'll probably look at new ways to put things on pizza and still splurge once in a while with that. So yeah, I'm eating great, eating in a window, an 8-hour window each day, so that gives my body a chance to have a break. I do eat quite a bit. I try to, since it's not sugar and it's not garbage, I eat quite a bit. I'll have a huge salad every evening with lots of wild greens and stuff. But I'm exercising so much that I have to replenish those calories, because I'm just burning insane amounts of calories doing all this training that I'm constantly adding to. So for me, NMN's been huge, but I did have a couple setbacks because I just, I overdid it. I overdid it in a couple cases. I tweaked my lower back, kind of a sciatica injury, which affects the hamstrings and the legs. And then I literally tore a tendon in my wrist. I had an MRI. That was a month ago. Now I'm back playing tennis. Now I played last weekend. So I quit for 4 weeks, as the doctor asked me to. And I got some treatments from the doctor's office there, some what's called induction treatments. They use like magnetics on it. I did like 5 of those treatments, and then I'm doing heat treatments myself and more stretching. So if anything, the injuries helped me to sort of find my way and find a better path, a better way to get fitness in without bursting, through that wall all the time. But I still was so curious. I had to try to burst through it because, like I said, I don't get tired.
So when we were speaking earlier, I really like that idea of the car metaphor, like the new engine in the old car. And I likened it to like a young, inexperienced driver being given a Lamborghini for the first time and just wanting to see how fast they can go and crashing, And I think we've actually had similar experiences. So, recently I had an illness, I got COVID, and then I had something called it's like the super cold that was going around. But the week prior to that, I'd been pushing my body and was amazed at how much I could do in the gym, how far I could walk. And I got to the point where I was hitting records, and then suddenly my body, I don't know if it was going to catch this virus anyway or whatever it was, but it was almost like my body saying to me, you know what? Okay, we're going to rest now. We're going to stop doing this now, and then we're going to recover. And I've only now started to get back to building up to kind of where I was. So I can really relate to what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's really important to kind of go through this. And I know that, most people aren't going to start exercising 6 hours a day. I mean, I don't have that expectation of anybody, but I'm doing it because I have the time, dedicating the time, and I want to sort of give people an idea of what's possible, and that you can have, if you make some changes. Yes, the supplements are important. They're not the only change that I've made. I consider it just sort of part of a new dietary approach. But at the same time, I can't imagine doing it without NMN. So it was, the better I've eaten and the more I've exercised, the more I notice when I have that NMN. For me, it's in the afternoon, early afternoon. I feel it right away. I feel everything right away. Like every change I make, I feel it right away. I have this thing called super yogurt that I made a video about, and I put everything in that I used to put in, but I stopped putting honey in it because it was just, I could feel it. I could feel that it was too much sugar for me, even that 1 spoon of honey. So, it's interesting. The NMN is a big deal, but it's not the only deal.
Yeah. So I suppose one of the other things we mentioned was, if you were watching this video and you were someone who really never heard about this, or this is the first time you heard about it, and you maybe wanted to do a little bit of research and you found out about David Sinclair and his lab at Harvard, and specifically what NMN is. It's an NAD booster, but you were still cynical. Maybe you felt it was too good to be true, or maybe you felt it was like a placebo effect. So what would you say to somebody who had kind of those doubts?
I mean, first of all, I understand that, but I mean, it's science. I guess there's people that question everything. The people question, any technological breakthrough. I mean, there are naysayers and skeptics in every realm of life. I mean, this guy's been at Harvard for 20 years, and the results that they're getting are based on model organisms. And there's a lot of humans now, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people around the world taking NMN and these supplements that they found boost your NAD levels. So I guess there are skeptics for everything, in life. If you want to choose to be a skeptic, that's certainly, you're right. I mean, and there are barriers besides just the skepticism barrier, which I had myself. I spent months researching this, as did you. I think you spent at least a couple months. You were just like looking at stuff. I was the same way because I am a skeptic, and I didn't want to put anything in my body. To be honest, I didn't take any medication besides an occasional allergy pill just because I had to. I never wanted to take anything, but now I've sort of grown. Sorry, got a little alarm going off here.
That's okay. Don't worry.
Get back to you. Hold on. Give me a second.
Sure.
Where is Zoom? Where is Zoom? Gosh, I didn't think it'd be this complicated to get you back. Sorry about that.
It's
I had
fine.
an alarm.
We
Okay.
like it live and we like it real on this channel, and that's the way it is.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We're back.
We're back. I'm sorry about that technology.
No problem.
Yeah, where were we?
So we were talking basically, I mean, what came out of the last little segment for me is that skepticism is natural and skepticism is healthy. And both Marcel and I went through quite a long process before we decided to order any of this. Marcel also went through a process of finding a supplier that can supply NMN, which is pure, because there's a lot of people out there, particularly on Amazon, who are supplying things that are pure. I'm going to leave a link in my description for the supplier that I believe both Marcel and I use. And there's actually going to be a discount code there if you want 10% from Do Not Age off your first order. So obviously finding a good source is important. Educating yourself is important. It's very easy to make rash judgments about things you don't actually know much about. Would you agree with that, Marcel?
Oh yeah, I mean, the skepticism barrier, and there's also financial barrier, which led me to ordering on Amazon to try to save money.
Right.
Before I knew hardly very much at all really about it, other than Sinclair and a few other people were taking NMN resveratrol at the time. I've since added a handful of other supplements, a few other things that I've added. And like I said, I look at it as a dietary approach now. But actually the YouTube channel kind of opened up the doors to be able to afford a little bit more, because I just take that and invest it right back into the supplements. So, but I understand. I just understand. I understand the skepticism. I don't know what to say to it other than give it a shot. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, stop taking it. If you can overcome the financial barrier, and if you're in our age group or close to it, I would say anybody over 40 that feels older than they want to, you start to lose yourself. I think you and I both talked about that. You turn 50 and you no longer, I was never afraid of aging. Never thought about it. I just thought, well, I'll just be an older version of myself. But I actually started to lose myself. I could no longer do the things I wanted to do. And I have two small boys, 7 and 10. And they play tennis. They're active in other things besides tennis. Sometimes it doesn't have to be tennis. Like, I just wanted to go for a walk without pain with the family. And I would go, but I'd be stopping often. I mean, I was a wreck.
Yeah.
It was not fun. And I'd walk for an hour and I was done. And that would make a few stops. Or my wife would walk out ahead of me and I'd kind of stand around or sit on a bench for a while. I mean, I was like the old man. Now, I had some extreme problems. I don't know what was causing them, but I had soreness and stiffness and just was feeling uncomfortable. I knew something was wrong. And I decided to give it a shot, and my energy all came back. The soreness went away. I started playing tennis every day I wanted to, sometimes every day during the summer, especially. And slowly it just kept improving. Now I'm exercising 6 hours, 5-6 hours a day. I mean, go figure. It's crazy.
I think that point about aging and losing yourself and identity is a massive one. And what you're describing is a kind of progressive process. Like, if we don't do anything about it, it doesn't actually get better, it gets worse. And having seen my elderly parents get older, and people around me also with elderly parents getting older, and watching them physically deteriorate, it feels more and more urgent to me to find something which is going to keep me in really good health for the rest of my life.
Well, you also don't notice it as it's happening usually. I mean, there is a day that you wake up and you look in the mirror and you're gone. You're no longer who you were. You became your dad, or you became a version of your dad. Yeah. But it happens slowly over time. You don't realize it. Like, some of the things. Listen, I posted it. My video was about feeling young, and my next video is quite honestly going to be more about getting young, because I don't just feel younger anymore. Like, I am younger. I'm doing things based on results. Like, there's no way I'm not younger to be exercising the way I am, and to also feel like I go out without a jacket when it's cold.
Yeah.
I feel cold, but it's not in my bones anymore. When you get old, you start saying, I feel it in my bones, You don't. I used to feel that inside during the winter and be turning the heat up or putting an extra blanket on.
Yeah.
I just don't do that anymore. So I feel younger. I spend a lot more of my day listening to music. Now, I happen to like 80s music, so I'm still listening. I'm not like, I didn't suddenly start listening to modern music nonstop, although I hear it in the car with my kids for sure, but I'm still into the stuff I was into. I'm just into it more than I was 2-3 years ago. It feels, I'm listening to songs going, I forgot about that song. I used to love that when I was, 30 years ago, something from the 80s. And I'm just like, oh, I totally forgot about that Howard Jones song or whatever it is. And so I'm, if that's not younger, I'm more active. I feel younger. I can go all day. I'm sleeping better. Once I do knock off for the night, I sleep great. I don't wake up anymore 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Don't know what to do with myself. So I'm sleeping through the night. That alone is a huge one. I mean, if I were looking at these supplements and I was a person waking up at 2, 3 in the morning every day, it's murder. And it sucks. Yeah. And then you get up because then you're lost the whole day. Yes. So it's bad enough that you're dealing with aging, but then you can't sleep at night because you wake up in the middle of the night. It's torture. And so being able to sleep through the night has been huge. And where did that come from? I'm not taking any sleep medication. All I did was start taking the supplements, and I started to sleep. Mm. So there's just, I no longer view it as feeling younger or even looking younger. I am younger. I'm getting younger. And how long that continues is anyone's guess. I mean, it's going to be some kind of grand experiment, I guess. But
so there was a process of remembering myself that I went through. I realized when I first started taking NMN exactly what you're just saying. I remembered what it felt like to not have to have a sleep in the middle of the day. I remembered what it felt like just to be able to concentrate for hours at a time. I remembered what it felt like to just go out walking and walk for half an hour, 45 minutes and not think anything of it. But we had forgotten those things. That's the important part. And I think one of the reasons that your initial photo, in fact, I might put that on the thumbnail, if that's all right with you, your initial photo when you did the before and after was so, it was so effective, so popular for people, because they recognized themselves in that before photo.
That's true. That's a good point. I never thought of that way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. Well,
Yeah.
they know they lost people. I talk to a lot of people, and the skeptics are a smaller portion of them. They're just a louder portion and a concerning portion, because I don't understand not just the skeptics, but there's 10-20% that say that take NMN and don't feel anything. The vast majority do, and I have those discussions on a daily basis, both online. I encourage people to come to the Facebook group, NED Booster Club. Get involved in my channel or your channel. Come check us out on YouTube, make comments, be vocal. And I hear from people all the time, and you'll go up and you'll see that we are not alone. We're a part of a group of guys that's feeling incredible. And so there are so many success stories. I mean, the fact that we're talking to each other is just, it's part of it. And I don't want to convince anybody to do anything. At the same time, my life has become telling this story. Like, it's because I know it's important. It's important to people. I have a lot of friends, by the way. Probably have a dozen friends taking NMN, and I didn't even know about most of them till after the fact. Like, they would message me and they said, "Oh, I saw your video. I started taking it. I've been taking it for 2 months." So a lot of people are open to this, and I know a lot more people than I thought I did that are just friends that just said, "Oh, I grabbed some NMN, by the way." We'll be talking about music or something else, and then they tell me. So a lot of people on this, so that means it's important. It's not just you and me. It's not just, we're not in a bubble. We're not here trying to convince anybody to try NMN or the changing their life, but we changed ours. I have several other friends that it's impacting, and I think it's important. And so I've sort of myself, I've made myself part 2 of this experiment. So part 1 was taking the stuff to begin with, which, I'm taking 5 things every day, or, plus some vitamins. So, I mean, it's not a huge stack like Alan Graves, the CEO of Do Not Age, takes everything they make, but it's a lot for me. And considering I was taking none of it before. So that's kind of like step 1. And step 2 is to go out and see what not just use all this energy, but how good can I be at, in my case, athletics. How far back can I turn the clock? Can I turn it back 10 years? Can I turn it back 20 years? I mean, I compete at the club with people in their 30s, and I used to have like 5 minutes when I could compete at their level, and the rest I was just sort of behind them. Now I feel like maybe I could go a whole match. I know I could go a whole set because we were tied in the first set. It was 4-4. So, and then I got injured at the end of the third set. I played too much, but I did fade after the first set. That was a month ago. So my conditioning now is to get myself to be able to compete with people in their 30s for a whole match. And I'm not, won't guarantee that I'll win. I'm not the best tennis player in the world, but that's my experiment. That's how I'm sort of judging my success.
So I had a kind of parallel experiment, but it's slightly different. I've got a couple of updates. As I mentioned to you earlier, I was given a diagnosis of diabetes in 2019, and I got some blood tests done recently from the diabetic nurse, and I reduced my, I think, HbA1c numbers by almost by 10. So I'm now pretty much out the diabetic range, and that's a lot of that is to do with NMN, but also Berberine. So part of the stack that I take is NMN, Berberine, and resveratrol, and the Berberine does a lot for reducing blood sugar. So I just thought I'd share that. Also, I spoke about having an operation, and we did our initial interview. And I had there are some concerns about taking NMN if you have a tumor, for example. So I had a cancerous tumor removed from my bladder. But there's also quite a lot of research when I went into it on what happens, or how effective NMN can be for repair and ensuring that tumors don't regrow. And actually, when I had my first scan, after I've been taking NMN for a couple of months, the scan was clear. So I now know that the NMN is not going to encourage regrowth of the tumor. In fact, it's probably going to suppress it. So these little successes they're big for us, right? They mean a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think if like in your case, if you feel better as you describe from day to day, like I said, it's not, most people aren't going to go out and exercise 4 or 5 hours a day or even 6 or whatever. No, but if you feel better day to day and you're not sick,
Yeah.
I think that's a huge win. God, my gosh, and everything on top of that is just a bonus. I just happen to be treating myself a bit like an experiment. I'm wondering what I'll put it bluntly, like, could Michael Jordan get on this program? Could he come back? See, I believe, based on what I've seen so far, there's a good chance he could. He could play again. I'm not saying he would be the Michael Jordan of 35. He's my age. So he'd be a 57-year-old, 56, 57-year-old. He'd be a 57-year-old Michael Jordan that could still play and impact a game. Mm. Yeah, I'm not saying he'd be 35-year-old Michael Jordan, but I'm saying he could play.
Yeah.
And probably in the NBA, and probably maybe off the bench, maybe giving you 20 good minutes every night, and recovering. Mm. If he's anything like me, biochemistry wise,
yeah,
like if he responds to it the way I have, forget my 2 injury setbacks, because like I'm almost healed from those after 4 weeks, and everything else feels great, and my overall energy is high. These were dumb movements. I literally went out the door and sprinted without stretching,
right,
and without a warm up. I mean, it's stupid.
Could you imagine
stupid at any age?
Could you imagine yourself coming out the door and sprinting like 2-3 years ago before you take an NMN?
No, I couldn't have sprinted. I didn't. What I described. This is a true story. Okay, this was my 3rd time sprinting, but I sort of like tweaked something in my back. Okay, but I was going so fast. There were some people walking the dog, and I was afraid I might startle the dog. I live in Germany, for those that don't know or haven't seen my channel. And the Germans stopped me at the end. I stopped. I sprint a block and stop, and then sprint a block and stop, and sprint a block and stop. So I sprinted, I blew by them so fast, I was afraid that I was going to startle the dog. And when they caught back up with me, they stopped to remark how fast I was moving. Now, they had no idea how old I was. I could be 20. And they had no, because I had a cap on, jacket, it was night, and I've lost weight. So I look, in the dark, like I could be any age. But they were so blown away with how fast I was moving. And I was like my feet were hitting the ground, like, I wish I was clocked. I wish there was a way to time that sprint. At some point, I will get back to sprinting, because I'm working my way up with a much more low impact, but many more hour workout now. Instead of doing it stupidly, I'm getting a lot of stretching. I'm doing excessive warm up, because I learned my lesson. But I was just so full of energy, and I could do it, and I knew I could do it, and it was working. It's just that at any age, you can't walk out the door and start sprinting. It's just this. I was trying to break myself. I mean, I literally told my wife that I'm going to try to see where the wall is, and I found it. And then, the wrist was a fluke thing that I'm almost over now with tennis. So I did hit the wall, but it was just because I was so exuberant. I was so excited that I went out and overdid things in a couple regards. But
Marcel, you have been, I've got to say to you, you've been an inspiration to me, and I'm so grateful for having come across your video, because I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't have taken it at all. And just listening to your enthusiasm for this, hopefully will inspire everybody watching. So have you got any final thoughts for us before we say goodbye?
And I appreciate the conversation. I could talk about this all day. I hope people give it a shot. I hope people will, more than anything, understand that there's hope. out there. If you're, I was pretty much at the end in a lot of ways. I felt like my life was no longer, I was no longer living my life. Like I was living some other life. And sorry if there's stuff flashing. I actually had a tennis match on. I watch a lot of tennis now too, so there was some highlights that were flashing. But yeah, you can quit sugar, and it can do wonderful things for you. You can exercise. I stretch every day for 45 minutes now. It runs into an hour because I do some other things and I rest in between and drink some water and stuff. I do targeted heat therapy. I take either a hot shower or hot bath every morning, and then I do my stretching, and I stretch everything head to toe. And this has been, matter of fact, I think that's the missing link. We talk about exercise, we talk about supplements, we talk about dietary, eating well, and eating in a smaller window. This is all stuff I pointed out in other videos that I've done. And I recommend all that. But stretching has been huge, not just for my athletics, but stretching, it turns out, is cumulative. So
if you hop over to Marcel's channel, he promises me he's going to make a whole video about stretching.
Just about stretching, just with my routine.
Just about stretching. So be sure to hop over to his channel, have a look at it. Marcel, just in terms of interest of time, I just want to thank you once again for being here today. And hopefully we'll have a chance to chat again soon.
It's always a pleasure, Rob. Check out the interview I did with Rob also on my channel, where he tells his story.
Lovely. Thanks so much, Marcel.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.